Unit 3, Tape Script 3.1. 1.
Who was the man?
A 44-year-old Swedish man called Peter Skillberg.
2.
Who found him?
A worker who was clearing the road.
3.
Where was he when the accident happened?
In northern Sweden, near the town of Umeå.
4.
When was he found?
Last Friday.
5.
How did the accident happen?
He'd been driving on a forest road when he was caught in a snowstorm and he got stuck in snowdrifts.
6.
How did he survive?
By eating snow and keeping warm in a sleeping bag.
7.
How is he now?
He's recovering from hypothermia in hospital.
8.
What was the temperature?
Minus 30 degrees Celsius.
9.
Why wasn't he found for 60 days?
Because the road where he'd been driving was so remote.
Tape Script 3.2.
This is amazing.
What is?
Well, it says here that a 44-year-old man in Sweden was buried in snow for 60 days and he survived.
60 days? I don't believe it. Was he buried by an avalanche or something while he was skiing?
No, he hadn't been skiing. He was driving his car and it was snowing hard and he got stuck in snowdrifts.
But 60 days is over 2 months. How come nobody found him?
Well, apparently he was on a remote road and his car was completely covered in snow.
Like an igloo?
Yeah.
So was he sitting in his car all that time?
No, not sitting, lying. Fortunately, he'd brought a sleeping bag and when they found him, he was lying in that.
Very fortunate. Why didn't anyone report him missing?
I don't know, it doesn't say.
I'm not sure this story's true. Did he have stuff to eat?
No, he said he'd eaten nothing but snow. He was really thin when they found him, emaciated, it says here, and he had hypothermia.
I'm not surprised. I just don't believe it's possible to live without food for 60 days, and it's strange that nobody missed him. I think there's more to this story than meets the eye.
Tape Script 3.3. 1.
He disappeared 10 months ago.
2.
He'd been living in the forest since May.
3.
The car looked like an igloo.
4.
He'd fallen out with his family.
5.
They hadn't been trying to find him.
6.
He wasn't discovered until February.
Tape Script 3.4. Here is the news.
Good evening. Here is the news at 6 o'clock on Wednesday the 31st of October, read by Hugh Kernoyd. One of Britain's richest men, the billionaire mobile phone tycoon John Caldwell, was left bruised and blooded after being attacked during a robbery at his 16th century mansion near Eccleshall in Staffordshire. Mr. Caldwell, 57, was beaten with a crowbar, then bound and gagged by a gang of masked men. The men then turned on his glamorous fiancée, former model Claire Johnson, 41. Mr. Caldwell and Miss Johnson had been chatting together in the kitchen when the gang struck at 8:15 p.m. on Monday. The men, wearing balaclavas and dark clothes, stole money and jewels before escaping on foot across fields behind the house. The couple, who have a 6-year-old son, were treated by paramedics at the scene before being taken to a private hospital. Mr. Caldwell had suffered a gash to his forehead and bruising to his arms. Yesterday, about a dozen police officers were using metal detectors to search for clues in the grounds surrounding the property. Today, a 48-year-old man was arrested in connection with the robbery.
Tape script 3.5. And finally, an amazing achievement.
American stuntman and trapeze artist Nick Wallander is the first person ever to cross a gorge near the Grand Canyon on a tightrope. Nick, 34, wearing shoes specially made by his mother, but without a safety harness, took just 22 minutes to walk from one side of the gorge to the other. With strong winds and dust blowing into his eyes, twice he seemed to lose his balance, and he sat down, but he got up again and kept going to the end. He was greeted by cheers as he stepped safely back onto land. The walk was watched by a global television audience of several million. Daredevil Nick already holds 7 world records, including the longest walk over a waterfall, which he achieved last year when he crossed Niagara Falls.
Tape script 3.6. 1.
What did he do that was so amazing?
He crossed a gorge near the Grand Canyon on a tightrope.
2.
Has anyone done this before?
No, never. He's the first.
3.
What was he wearing?
Special shoes his mother had made for him.
4.
What wasn't he wearing?
A safety harness.
5.
How long did it take?
It took him just 22 minutes.
6.
What was the weather like?
Not good. There were strong winds which created a lot of dust.
7.
How many people watched him?
There was a global television audience of several million.
8.
What did he do the year before?
He walked across the Niagara Falls.
Tape script 3.7. 1.
Who wrote it?
2.
What kind of book is it?
3.
What's it about?
4.
Where and when is it set?
5.
Who are the main characters?
6.
Has it been made into a film?
7.
How does it end?
8.
Would you recommend it?
9.
What did the critics say about it?
10.
Has it won any awards?
Tape script 3.8. The Clinging Woman.
It's 5 to midnight. And tonight, we begin our new bedtime story. It's by that famous crime writer and author of many psychological thrillers, Ruth Rendell. One of her best-known short stories, The Clinging Woman.
The Clinging Woman, Part 1. The girl was hanging by her hands from the railings of a balcony. The balcony was on the 12th floor of the high-rise block next to his. His flat was on the 9th floor, and he had to look up to see her. It was 6:30 in the morning. He had been awakened by the sound of an aircraft flying dangerously low overhead, and had got out of bed to look. His sleepy gaze, descending from the blue sky, which was empty of clouds, empty of anything but the bright vanishing arrow of the aircraft, alighted, at first with disbelief, on the hanging figure.
Tape script 3.9.
Part 2. He really thought he must be dreaming, for this sunrise time was the hour for dreams. Then, when he knew he wasn't, he decided it must be a stunt. This was to be a scene in a film. There were cameramen down there, A whole film unit, and all the correct safety precautions had been taken. Probably the girl wasn't even a real girl, but a dummy. He opened the window and looked down. The car park, paved courts, grass spaces between the blocks, all were deserted. On the balcony rail, one of the dummy's hands moved, clutching its anchorage more tightly, more desperately. He had to believe then what was obviously happening. Unbelievable only because melodrama, though a frequent constituent of real life, always is. The girl was trying to kill herself. She had lost her nerve and now was trying to stay alive. All these thoughts and conclusions of his occupied about 30 seconds. Then he acted. He picked up the phone and dialed the emergency number for the police. The arrival of the police cars and the ultimate rescue of the girl became the focus of gossip and speculation for the tenants of the 2 blocks. Someone found out that it was he who had alerted the police, and he became an unwilling hero. He was a modest, quiet young man, and, disliking this limelight, was relieved when the talk began to die away, when the novelty of it wore off, and he was able to enter and leave his flat without being pointed at as a kind of St. George, and sometimes even congratulated. About a fortnight after that morning of melodrama, he was getting ready to go to the theatre, just putting on his overcoat, when the doorbell rang. He didn't recognize the girl who stood outside. He had never seen her face. She said,
I'm Lydia Simpson. You saved my life. I've come to thank you.
Tape script 3.10.
Part 3. She said,
I'm Lydia Simpson. You saved my life. I've come to thank you.
His embarrassment was acute.
You shouldn't have.
He said with a nervous smile.
You really shouldn't. That's not necessary. I only did what anyone would have done.
She was calm and tranquil. Not at all his idea of a failed suicide.
But no one else did,
she said.
Won't you come in? Have a drink or something?
Oh no, I couldn't think of it. I can see you're just going out. I only wanted to say thank you very, very much.
It was nothing.
Nothing to save someone's life. I'll always be grateful to you.
He wished she would either come in or go away. If this went on much longer, the people in the other 2 flats on his floor would hear, would come out, and another of those bravest deeds of the year committee meetings would be convened.
Nothing at all,
he said desperately.
Really, I've almost forgotten it.
I shall never forget. Never.
Her manner, calm, yet intense, made him feel uncomfortable, and he watched her retreat into the lift, smiling pensively with profound relief. Luckily, they weren't likely to meet again. The curious thing was that they did, the next morning, at the bus stop.
And there we leave the story for today. Tune in tomorrow at the same time to find out what happens next. In the meantime, good night to you all.
Tape script 3.11. Amy.
Basically, it's a love story, but it's also a very funny and witty book. It's really about overcoming prejudice and accepting people for who they are. What I love is the interaction between Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy, both extremely proud but secretly in love.
Lucas.
It's just a classic superhero story set in the modern day. The Joker is back, and it's up to Batman to save Gotham City from its impending doom. It's a proper thriller with fast-paced action and Great special effects. Well worth a watch.
Martina.
It's quite old now, but it's become a classic. It gives a troubling vision of the future, and I guess it's a kind of warning about depending too much on technology. It was pioneering cinema of its day. None of the special effects had ever been done before, and its use of colour gave it a really special atmosphere.
Adam.
From the moment the professor finds the body of the curator in the Louvre, you just have to find out what happens. The whole mystery of the murder and the clues and the puzzles keep you reading on. And most of the chapters end on a cliffhanger, so it's a real page-turner.
Tape script 3.12. Lucy and Rachel.
Hey, Auntie Rach, here's that book you lent me. I know it's one of your favourites.
Oh, you can keep it if you like, or pass it on. I've got it on my Kindle now for reading.
What? You've got a Kindle?
Yeah. I'm surprised you haven't got one.
I have got one. At least I have an iPad mini. It does the same kind of thing.
Is that right? Well, I love my Kindle.
But, Auntie Rach, you always said you hated the idea of reading books on a screen. You said you liked turning proper pages.
I know. I was a real sceptic. But your uncle brought me one for my birthday, and as soon as I downloaded my first book, I just fell in love with it. It's like I have a whole library in my handbag.
Well, you were the last person I'd have thought of as a Kindle fan. It was you who gave me my love of books. I used to love going to the local bookshop and the library with you when I was a kid.
I know, Lucy. I loved those times too. And I really don't want the local shop or library to close. But you know I travel a lot in my work, and my Kindle doesn't weigh down my luggage like my books did. And it's so much cheaper too.
Yeah, I know. Downloads are about half the price of printed books, and
I don't have to plan in advance what I want to read.
Sure, I can see all that, but I've just always thought of you as my book auntie, that's all.
Well, I still am, just in a different way. Anyway, I thought you students were meant to be permanently plugged into one gadget or another.
Yeah, you're right. I spent half my life on my computer at college and the other half on my mobile or iPad. But I like a break from a screen sometimes.
I can see that, but...
Yeah, just curling up in bed with a good novel or sitting reading in the sun. Oh, it's my idea of heaven. Screens aren't much good in the sun.
Well, yes, but my Kindle's great for reading in bed and...
OK, Auntie. I get it. You're a complete convert.
Tape script 3.13. Greg and Eddie.
Hi, Eddie. Did you have a good weekend?
Hi, Greg. Yeah, not bad, thanks. I saw a good movie with some friends. Hey, there was a trailer for a 4D film. It looks amazing.
4D? I thought most people had given up on 3D. The last 3D film I saw was Avatar. Well, that was pretty impressive, but since then most 3D films seem a waste of time. Oh, and those silly glasses just drive me mad.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But this 4D idea sounds quite cool. The seats in the cinema move and vibrate to match the action on the screen. So you get more of an intense experience, especially from an action movie.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. You might end up covered in Coke or ice cream. To be honest, I can't remember the last time I actually went to the cinema. It costs a fortune. Well, give me a download to my laptop any day.
Oh, come on. You can't beat the group experience of going to the cinema. What I love is knowing the whole room of people is feeling the same thing.
For me, the people are the problem. I always end up behind someone who talks through the whole thing, or they eat crisps or popcorn. What I like about downloading is watching a movie when it suits me, you know, and in peace and quiet.
Yeah, streaming a film to your PC or TV at home is okay. But, you know, a lot of movies were created for the big screen. The colour, the sound, everything needs to be on a big scale. You can't watch something like that you know, like Star Wars on a tablet or a mobile.
Yeah, you got a point there. Some films are better at the movies, but I still don't enjoy the experience much. And me and my girlfriend Lisa can never, ever agree on what to watch. So she watches her movies on the TV, and I watch mine on the laptop.
Oh, you old romantic.
Oh, that sounds awful, I know. But Lisa's into all these black and white foreign films. It's all a bit heavy for me, and I just find those subtitles too distracting.
All foreign films are in black and white and full of misery, you know. I mean, there are some really, really great comedies and thrillers. Do you know what? I'll lend you a few of my DVDs.
OK, yep, fair enough, that's a deal. Maybe I'll surprise Lisa and take her to the arts cinema.
Ooh, one step at a time, Greg, one step at a time.
Tape script 3.14.
Jade's got a new boyfriend.
A new boyfriend? Good for her.
Apparently, he lives in a castle.
Does he? How amazing!
Yes! She met him in Slovenia.
In Slovenia? That's interesting.
Unfortunately, he can't speak much English.
Can't he? I thought everyone could these days.
Tape script 3.15. 1.
Sam wants to apologise.
Does he?
Yes, he's broken your precious Chinese vase.
My precious Chinese vase. Oh, no.
2.
We had a terrible holiday.
Did you?
Yes. It rained all the time.
Did it?
Yes. And the food was disgusting.
Was it? What a drag.
3.
I'm broke.
Are you? How come?
Because I just had a phone bill for £500.
£500? Why so much?
Because I have a girlfriend in Korea.
Do you? How interesting.
4.
It took me 3 hours to get here.
Did it?
Yes, there was a traffic jam 10 miles long.
10 miles long? That's awful.
Now I've got a headache.
Have you? Poor darling. I'll get you something for it.
5.
I'm on a mountain, watching the sunset.
Are you?
Yes, and I've got something very important to ask you.
Have you? What is it? I can't wait.
You'd better sit down. I'd like to marry you.
Marry me? Wow,